case. People are fickle, facetious, shallow. That's what it is.
Okay. Parental alienation.
Oh, that's the battle of self-centeredness that comes to the fore when they use children as the pawn to get at the other spouse or the other party by deliberately bad-mouthing,
One
running
another.
down, fabricating, spinning stories, meaning something may happen, but potato, you know?
Yes.
You say it how you want it to make an effect.
Yeah.
And that has become a huge problem, or has been a huge problem, where the other side's access and relationship with children gets eroded
Yeah.
by mischief on the other party. That's the battle for the choice of the children, choice of parent.
So again, without bringing up a male-female element to this, but I often see this with women. So because they're bitter, or because they're just generally pissed off, they use the kids to kind of get at the guy. I'm also dealing at the moment with somebody who's approached me and said that because her ex-husband knows that her kids are her Achilles heel, they are her soft spot, he's now going and using the kids, telling them all kinds of stories to get them to be nasty with their mum. So it does work both ways, but I've generally seen women use this.
Well, I've seen examples of men who control through their patriarchal
So there's that.
Neanderthal thinking that the man controls all the women in the house and the children too.
Yeah.
So he tends to want to throw that net over them and say, I'll control where you go, but I'm having my cake and eating it as well.
On the side.
And there's those ridiculous patriarchal, archaic thinking
Yeah.
that you can now control somebody who you just divorced.
Yeah.
That's rubbish.
Total rubbish, but
so
it happens.
I'd say there's equal amounts of interference and
Yeah.
bad behavior, if you
Yeah.
ask me, about when parental alienation syndrome creeps in. It cuts both ways.
And have you seen? Obviously, you're not a child psychologist, but what have you seen? Have you had any interactions with the children in this regard,
Yes,
or do you only ever deal with the adults?
No, I've had interaction with children. I've had children approach me and have this say. I encourage it where they're old enough to say as
Okay.
much as needed, not possible, as needed to help the situation, where they
Okay.
should come out and express with a bit of guidance. We've also had children messaging me from the parents' phones to
Oh,
say
wow.
this is what they want and what they don't want. So the battle can be bloody. It can be really widened, and when children get in the middle of it as well, they tend to form their own battlefield. And it's never a good thing to involve children in your battles, never.
So with my case, I remember specifically the child psychologist telling me that either I get a handle on myself in the situation and literally lay all weapons down, because if I don't, my children were going to join the fight.
Yes, they will be conditioned to do
They
what you do.
would be conditioned to join the fight.
Children follow an example of
Yeah.
adults. Whether we like
Yeah.
to say it or not, we don't know where the children come from. They come from you.
And they often, it's weird how they pick up. You've seen my two. They spew things back at me that I literally have heard myself say.
Yeah.
So
yes, they are monkey see, monkey do.
yeah,
Literally. So we've got to be mindful of that, and that's the duty charged to adults as to how they've got to conduct themselves when you're dealing with children.
yeah.
So be very mindful of what you say. They are an absorbing hard drive. They will download everything that you are doing, and when you least expect it or want it, it'll come out.
It comes back at you.
So you've got to be careful for that.
What would you? So what would be your best advice for these two supposed adults who are now and these children are suffering in the middle? Like have you ever had to get
I say this on the
raise your
premise-
voice in a
Well, it's often when you have to be blunt with clients so
Yeah.
that they listen. Because if they waste your time and they come there with a chip on the shoulder knowing everything, then they don't need attorneys. So phone somebody else then if you think you got all the answers.
yeah.
So
you know
that's the way
everything
to-
goes somewhere
yeah.
else.
So at the end of the day, you've got to be firm with your clients in terms of what's their best interest. So even if they don't like what you have to say, you must be upfront and honest as to where this is going to go.
Yeah.
So
You often told me shit I didn't want to hear.
you've got to be firm with clients. You have
Remember
to.
that?
Because when you sit and watch somebody self-destruct, I don't deal well with helplessness.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get in and smack you silly to stop
Yeah.
yourself from causing more damage. So if we fall out because of that, then so be it, as long as I've done it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get the truth, you deal with it, and you deal with the person firmly.
But what you just said is exactly the point. So unless I am, as a divorcee, going to hold myself completely accountable for my hutas, like everything I've said and done in the scenario to either break it down or build it up some of the time.
Yeah, you must remember a person who's going through divorce is an emotional monster.
It's traumatic.
They are an emotional monster. And if they sense any weakness in any individual, be it children, the other spouse, or the attorney, they inadvertently or they involuntarily latch onto it and they want to destroy it,
Yeah.
the sense of weakness. And they'll do it to you as your attorney as well. So you can't show any signs of weakness or timidness in terms of giving the advice. You give advice that's firm, that's factual, that's
the best interest of
believed
everybody.
to be, yes, that's believed to be correct, and you stick to it. If you flippant and you flip from one scenario to another, clients are not coming for that. They want to be held, their hands to be held firmly going through it. So when they throw their toys out of the cot, they want a safe environment to know that their attorney's got their back. And telling them the truth.
You are in a storm.
Yes. So
You're in a
telling
storm.
them, so you've got to be firm. You've got to be firm and you've got to be upfront with your client. Don't sugarcoat stuff. Be sensitive, but don't sugarcoat nonsense because you're misleading the client.
Yeah.
It tends to become misleading.
Yeah.
So be firm, be honest, but be sensitive to your client.
Yeah. So have I ever said thank you?
No.
Well, okay, so just thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Because I remember those moments in the courtroom, and I remember sitting in your office, remember sitting in the boardroom when the other parties were involved, and you often, you didn't kick me under the table, but you often had to step in and just go, Fatin, shut up now, because I did get ahead of myself. My ego really was entangled in a lot of that
Like
that
I said,
journey.
people become emotional monsters, so you must be able to hold it firmly.
Yeah, thankfully, I'd like to think that I've matured
Yes,
over the years. I'd like to think so.
Well, look where you are right now.
I'm trying, I was telling somebody just the other day that I feel like the poster child for everything of what not to do.
Well, in
Right.
many sense, yes, you get first prize for what not to do. I would agree.
Okay, so thanks for the honesty. but having been through it and having now walked all the way 8 years later, I feel like it's time to just tell people like it is.
Absolutely.
It
I think this is
really,
a wonderful
this
thing that you're
whole
doing.
divorce thing, it just really ought to not be this shitty.
Yeah. Share, and share again.
So I'm going to tag you.
Absolutely.
Tag you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Tag you on your. Do you have an
Absolutely.
Instagram account?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do it all, but let's keep having these conversations, and I hope maybe you can introduce me to some of those awesome clients so that I can tell better stories.
Absolutely.
Because we're all familiar with the fight. We're all familiar with egos getting entangled between two adults who stood up before a whole village to say that they love one another, and then they fucked it up along the way.
Absolutely.
So, excuse the cussing. It's almost, yeah. So, is there anything else you want to
No, thank you.
throw in?
No.
Thanks. Thank you very much. This is going to go on Facebook. This is our very first video. Shaheid has been really kind about the fact that we're going with what we know, and we haven't researched anything. We're just basically talking on the fly.
Sure.
But he's been really kind about giving of his time, sharing his experiences. But then also just, this is done on a smartphone, people. I know nothing of recordings. I'm hoping it was a good quality. We've spent a good amount of time talking about it, and I'm really hoping it was helpful.
So we look forward to seeing it on the internet.
Yay! Thank you.